Welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast, a podcast from the home of Scrum. In this podcast, we feature professional Scrum trainers and other Scrum practitioners sharing their stories and experiences to help learn from the experience of others. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome to the Scrum.org Community Podcast. I'm your host, Dave West, CEO here at Scrum.org. And today I'm very excited to have two people to talk to about some very interesting ideas around agility. I'm lucky to have with me Michelle Soer and William van der Korpert from Lightyear. Michelle is an agile coach at Lightyear, and Willem is the VP of Engineering at Lightyear. Welcome to the podcast. I apologize for your names. I'm not very good at Dutch words.
No problem. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. Good evening for us in this sense.
Yes, actually, Michelle and Willem are joining us from Amsterdam on a Friday evening. So if you hear the clinking of glass or the consumption of bitterbol in the background, that'll be these two, not me. So thanks for joining us. So the reason why I'm so excited to have this podcast today was I actually met Michelle at Agile Amsterdam. And actually spent quite a lot of time actually at a bar, interestingly, talking to Michelle about the wonderful stuff they're doing at Lightyear. And really, I was struck by her story and wanted to share it with you all. So that's the reason why we're talking today. Now, before we talk about Lightyear, which is what I really want to get into, which is an amazing story, spoiler alert for the listeners, Lightyear are actually building solar paneled cars. How cool is that? I think it's just amazing. Every time I put my hand on a hot roof in a car park on a car, I think to myself, why is this energy being wasted? So exciting that we're going to be talking about that. But before we do that though, let's take a moment, really, because our audience is always interested in how you got where you are. So I don't know, Michelle, do you want to just talk a little bit about who you are and how you got to your role as an agile coach at Lightyear?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started a while back, just in a shop, actually working in a shop at Vodafone. And I was dealing with customers, and there my career, air quotes, kind of started. And I was forever doing stuff that I liked a lot, which was helping other teams and helping other shops as well. And I had my own team back then. And then I was explaining to part-timers how they could maybe count the cash register instead of having them clean the toilets, for example. So I said, do you want your manager to clean the toilets while you do the cash register? Here's an instruction manual on that. And this is literally my kind of way of getting autonomy to people. And I was doing more of the stuff that I really liked, got into changes and projects. And then somebody said, well, we want to do things a bit faster. Would that be possible? And I started this team called Happy Feet. We didn't check whether or not we could use the words, but or the name, obviously, but it worked. We had in 2 weeks' time with a really good agile coach, by the way. Don't know if I can shout out.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, Evelyn Roche, she's amazing. So she helped me, she coached me, and she taught me what agile was, and I was like, this is amazing. And we were able to establish a way of working with, in 2 weeks' time, go from idea to value instead of 9 months. And there it just kicked off. So my manager then, he said to me, look, Michelle, I don't care, just scale it, just make it successful. And that's what I do best. So I get a lot of energy into something, and I love scaling things, and I love putting super demos and knowledge sharing and getting people enthusiastic about agile. And I was doing that for 4 years at Vodafone Ziggo, and then I thought I want something else. I don't know yet what I want. And I started my own business as high five coach, because I always give high fives when something goes really well. And if you give a high five to something that goes well, you get more of stuff that goes well. So I like that progressive way of coaching. And yeah, all of a sudden, Lightyear popped around, and they said, "Do you want to join our company?" And I was like, "What is Lightyear?" And then I started looking into what they actually do, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing if I can be part of that." And yeah, I've been here for a year now, and it's been really exciting stuff, to be fair.
Excellent. I want to hear more about that exciting stuff in a minute, but let's, Willem, tell me a little bit about your VP of Engineering. How did you get to where you're at and then get to Lightyear?
Yeah, thanks for that. It also was a big journey, because I'm maybe less of interesting that Michelle is how she told it, but I'm really a car enthusiast already from a young boy, and I studied car mechanics, starting being a bachelor also in automotive experience in automotive expertise. And then I got in touch how to develop stuff for cars, and that's I like to create something. I just recently showed you that I also made an applause machine in the past, and with friends. That's also creating nice movable things. That brought me finally via different steps at tier one suppliers that move and make products for OEMs, like sunroofs. I make gearboxes, lighting for OEMs, and I saw them all actually in Europe, from the big ones to the smaller ones. And then finally, I was working as at a gearbox supplier in the Netherlands, and I came in touch with an old colleague that started at Lightyear, and I saw already on the news somewhere that they launched a render about a car, and that five guys from the Technical University in Eindhoven had the idea to start a new car in the Netherlands. So something unique. And I always said to my dad when I was little, I want to do something special when I grow up. I want to make something special. And then this came along, and I was there for a day, and that's now 5 years ago, to brainstorm how we would build a car with a team of 15 at that point. And I said, if you would have a spot for me, I would join. And I think a couple of months later, I joined them as an architect, interior system architect, for the Lightyear Zero that's now being launched. And that we did there, and I loved it. So it was a small team working together, making things, failing fast, and I didn't match that yet, or connected that yet with Agile, but I think there we're coming to the point. And 3 years ago, I started managing the engineering team, growing, and that's being sixfold till date, that growth of engineers. And I love it every day. It's a startup, scale up, as we call it now. It's hard work, but it brings energy. I think that's the most important thing about it. And
I love that. I love that, Willem. Thanks for sharing. And obviously, you and I could geek out a lot. I'm a big car enthusiast myself, and we could spend hours talking about gearboxes. Actually, I've managed to spend a lot of time trying to fix a few transmissions in my time, and never as successful as I wish I was. I don't think my hands are small enough. I think that's my issue. But anyway, tell me a little bit, and Willem, you've been there 5 years. Tell me a little bit about Lightyear. Tell the audience what Lightyear is all about. Solar paneled cars sounds a bit insane. Tell me a little bit about Lightyear.
Yeah, that's a nice story, because the company's founded in 2016. That's, I think, next week is 6 years. So I have an anniversary there, and it actually comes from the students from the Technical University, and it goes back to 2011, where the current CEO and some people are around him at the moment, and some founders, and also some colleagues are there. They went to the profs in the Technical University, and they want to join the Solar Challenge races in Australia, where already since the 80s, 90s, they started to race solar vehicles. I think 1985 was the first Explorer that went there. But finally, they, as a student, as 17, 18 years old, they got a team of 20, 25 people together, and they said, okay, let's try to do something. Let's try to make a vehicle, and as in the cruiser class, to bring as much persons from Adelaide to Darwin in a trace of 3,000 kilometers. So the more people you can bring, the more efficient you are. And sometimes you have headwind, so you need to take people out because you need more energy, and that's then the balance. But they made a so efficient car, and the efficiency of the car comes from the system engineering, so making sure that it's holistic and everything is connected, that they won actually the world championship with 100% advantage on number 2 already in 2013. And they did that again with a new team 2 years later. And even there was a full new team. So they just hand over the knowledge and they started over with a new car again. But they hand over the knowledge of how they did it. 2015 they won again, 17 they won again. And they said, okay, we have something special. So it is even possible. Because they had at a point as well during the race, a car that was driving 70 kph. Wow. With 5 persons in there and net zero energy. So yes, it was possible to drive a car on solar power. And yes, it's a race car. It's same as Formula 1. It's a race car, 400 kilos. People would have cooling vests on that, not pass out. But that's the start of a new thing. And that made them think, and that finally led to the founding of Lightyear. With a small bag of money, they just started getting more funding and step by step growing. As from that one to create a car that is not only about solar energy, because if you put a solar panel on a Tesla, it doesn't work for now because it's not part of the system, it's not part of their design. We started solar energy efficiency. We worked on the motors to being in the wheel, so in-wheel motors, so less drag, less reduction. And the system and the efficiency of the whole is actually the key of the Lightyear. So, and solar, if you have an effective and efficient system, then the solar panel makes sense. So we have 5 square meters now on the full car of Lightyear Zero, and we would indeed make more than 600 miles within a couple of charges. So within charges. If you would drive all the way one, so you do it in 400 miles. But if you do just need to travel between work and home, you will manage 600 miles up to more than 1,000 kilometers between charges.
It's just insane. And you know, the solar panels generate about 40 miles of charge, right?
Yeah.
So most commutes are certainly less than that. So Lightyear Zero is out, right? Is that right? The first car? Almost.
Yeah, we're doing the last sweat and tears on the start of production. So end of the year, the first customer is really almost there.
That's just amazing, and I apologize for holding you from the engineering lab to talk, but that sounds great. All right, so excellent kind of context. Thank you for sharing, Michelle, Willem. So Michelle, tell me a little bit about Agile, because this is a technical, engineering driven bunch of passionate, as Willem embodies, really geeky engineers who are trying to build cars. Is agile. So how does that fit? What have you been doing from an agile point of view at Lightyear?
Yeah, so it was really funny because when I joined the company, I literally just started exploring, okay, what's there? What does the company, drive on? For me, when I enter as a, to guide the transition, you always look at, okay, what's the mindset? What do they recruit for? So you always focus on HR, you focus on procurement to make sure that you have that exactly with systems engineering. You've got it with systemic coaching as well. You need to take it end to end. And the funny thing was, what I found actually was really funny because there were already organization design principles. And these principles, much like the values that we have within the Agile Manifesto, they were set up the same way. So they were set up like systems thinking over silos, and transparency over need to know, and setting big goals and achieving them incrementally. You know, those kind of things.
Wow.
So instead of setting small goals, they set big goals, but they achieve them incrementally instead of in one big blow. So I was like, okay, that's already there. And so I looked to the recruitment part, you know, because at least we want to, you know, recruit for agile mindsets. So we closed that tap of, you know, old mindset, old thinkers. And I go to the recruitment page and I see, we have an organization, we've got a value that binds us, the A-player mentality. And I look at it and there are 5 values, and it was literally think independently, be bold, deliver the change, put people first, and take responsibility. And I was like, okay, I can't argue with that. That's pretty agile, you know. If they literally recruit everybody on that mindset, and they do. It's funny, literally everybody has the last talk, which is 15 minutes with Lex himself, Lex who's the CEO. And he literally checks in 15 minutes, have you got the mindset or not? If you've not got the mindset, you're not an A player, you're not coming in. Doesn't matter how great you are, we want that mindset. And that was, I mean, for me, okay, I was like, okay, don't need a coach on that mindset. And then I saw the organization was also set up in a value stream. So there were products at the heart of the actual value stream. So each circle, that's the department, each circle, which is from Holacracy, has all their own role and responsibility on contributing to that value. So from idea until consumed value, until the customer actually has it and can drive it and is very happy with it and it's maintained, everybody has their own specific role in that. And that was described already. So I looked at Willem and I was like, Willem, what do you need me for? I was like, what am I doing? So I thought, okay, maybe we just need to set something up to sustain it. So that's literally what I did. I grabbed everything that was so beautiful, put it on a slide, and basically said, okay, we have a assessment, which is going to assess the teams on autonomy, alignment, and Lightyear values.
Yeah.
So I put there, you know, do you contribute to the mission? And I mean, the mission from Lightyear is amazing, right? So everybody knows exactly what they're contributing to. So for me, as an agile coach, it's a dream, really. And then I had that team scan, that team assessment. So we were able to use that as a tool in the teams to coach the teams, to help them, etc. And then obviously, you know, setting up a company cadence. But yeah, I don't know if maybe we've got a bit more time for that later in any scaling.
So let me see if I get this right. Yeah, I'd definitely like to talk about scaling as you are growing incredibly, and it's going to go mad when the cars hit the street because everybody's going to want them, and then it's going to just it'll just explode, right? But so we'll definitely come back to the scaling. So I just want to sort of just go through all the things that you said. Ultimately, it was a very agile organization that you came into. They'd already got a very clear alignment to values, a very clear alignment to the customer and the mission, very clear alignment to people and autonomy. So you've got this fantastic situation, and which is so rare in our world, right? So you came in. I've got a question to you though, William. Why did you? These things were obviously mindfully created, but you didn't look at sort of agile, or you just sort of, they just seemed sort of stood out, were the most sensible ways of building an organization that you wanted to work at?
Yeah, I think that just happened naturally. And I think there was a mindset on the agile. I think that it started, that was already there from the beginning. And talking to Michelle, and also when for Agile Amsterdam, we prepared a presentation. We had a keynote over there, and also during that preparation, we said, okay, but actually we started from scratch already agile. When I started the first year, I was doing the interior of the car, and ergonomics is, for example, how you sit in the car is a key thing, because you shape it around the customer. So we didn't have a lot of money to buy cars or to make prototypes, because I think we only survived in the first year, I guess. So we bought wooden planks at the DIY do-it-yourself shop. We hand cut it. We made crates of beer. We put a seat on there where we got some scrapyard. And in that sense, with duct tape, we created a car and shapes, and we measured in our CAD systems, our CAD systems, what would be relevant, and then we just tested out. And that was actually already agile with duct tape and a beer crate, and of course the beer crate need to be emptied afterwards. But that's part of the startup mentality, I guess. So we were there, but with a smaller team, and you're aligned much faster. And currently, in the last 2 years, the hypergrowth there, then it starts to, the growing pains we can start, and to keep it, and then adding more people to keep the culture. That's still the challenge, and that is the challenge. And now the next step is kicking off for production. So you come in an operation mode that you need to constantly deliver quality. The organization-wise usually is really traditional usually to make it happen constantly. And there we will end up in a dual operation mode, also where you talked about later in a previous one. That would be the best fit in the end.
It's super interesting, because obviously empiricism is at the heart of everything you do. Your process emerges, the outcomes emerge, you learn, you inspect and adapt, and you improve. It's built around small autonomous teams that almost have enough skills to deliver the value. So they're borrowing and stealing, going to Home Depot, I guess that's not in the Netherlands, but the equivalent, and like stealing ideas, meeting people for lunch that have ideas and stealing all their ideas and then making them pay, which is obviously what most startups do, obviously. So, but the challenge is growth. So I just want to explore a little bit about that. And gosh, I could talk for hours about this, but I'm really curious, because the people that you're bringing in as you're growing, obviously mindset is important, but you're also going to need people that have done it, that have built supply chains, that have managed service contracts with. How do you balance that mindset with that proven track record? Because many of these people, they've been working for Bosch. Not there's anything wrong with Bosch, awesome organization. They've been working with these big traditional OEMs. They've been working with these traditional sort of like not very agile automotive organizations. Fantastic. And I love cars, so they've done an amazing job, but they're not. How do you balance that kind of like hiring for mindset, but also experience? I don't know if either of you want to take that.
Yeah, that's a tricky one, of course, if you talk about, if you tell it like this. And yes, you need market experience, you need experienced people to help out, and on the other side, you need clever people just come up with a clever idea. So that needs to be the balance. What we try to do and keep up with is at least onboarding people in the right way as fast as possible. A kickstart meeting where at least people start already having a warm start. We developed heavily last year actually more training tools and making sure that we up in there. We do internally more feedback sessions. They also can feedback one-on-one on people. If you see that the behavior is not agile, or if it's that at least you can talk about it instead of going to the manager goes back in there. And that's the old-fashioned way. If you have a problem with somebody, just connect. And even in the beginning of Lightyear, and we as managers we try to keep that up. We had a 24-hour rule. So if somebody came and complained to me, I said, okay, about somebody else, you have 24 hours to talk to him, and I will check in 24 hours with that person if you check in with him and give him the feedback in order to keep that quick and also learn on that sense agile. So if people have this ability to give feedback, we are as Dutch are really direct. I think we are the difference in the world in that sense for ourselves, but we are really direct, and even our operators and everybody in the field, every engineers can even go to the CEO to me. There's open door policy in that sense, chat, and also working remote. But to keep the discussion going, I think that's the most important thing.
So ultimately, onboarding new people, instilling these virtues, you obviously will walk the talk or talk the walk or whatever the expression is. I guess walk the talk, which is super important. And then Michelle, obviously you've been heavily involved in trying to scale these practices. So I want to talk a little bit about that sort of culture fit and how you help these new hires to become more agile or to adopt this mindset.
Yeah, because I think it is a valid point. I mean, if you get experience, all those years of experience in a different company, people come in the company and they just do their job. They don't think about, I have a certain way of communicating. They don't think about, I have a certain way of working. No, I'm just literally, I'm just doing my job, and I'm doing exactly what I've been doing, and you hired me on that same position. So that makes that you need to be very transparent on those, that mindset, on those principles, because I think those organization design principles, those, and organizing around that value stream. I mean, we do have projects, and we're not organized around the value stream in those projects always. So there is a project for the Lightyear Zero, but not everybody was in there. So what was my contribution? Then obviously, making that very transparent and saying, guys, we're missing these guys in here, put them in there. Or, if you have a problem with something, hear people out when they are saying things, and they're very communicative, very verbal in asking for help. But it wasn't always, when there's so much happening, it doesn't always kind of sink in. So I was like checking with people, going like, I just heard you say that, but reading between the lines, I assume that you're not going to make it. Is that true? So for me as a coach, I would be focused on what's being said and what's not being said. And also like, okay, I heard you say this thing now for the past 2-3 weeks. What are we going to do about it? And asking those kind of questions and making everybody aware of that. That's been the most important thing, basically.
So I think that the sort of key takeaways, and we're hitting time, and gosh, this is such an interesting, there's so many more topics, and hopefully I better get you both on another podcast to talk about some of those topics, particularly around scale, around deep discipline skills, how you bring that together. But hopefully we can have some time to talk about those things another time. But to sort of just to summarize the importance of transparency, the importance of an open culture. I mean, you sort of laughed about being Dutch, but frankly, I would say that Netherlands is one of the most agile places in the world. Not only do we at Scrum.org have more trainers there per capita than any other place in the world, but everybody, if you wear a Scrum t-shirt in the Netherlands, you will be talking to loads of people in the coffee shops and in the bars, because everybody does it. So I think that directness, that transparency, that sort of that open culture is important. But I think, Michelle, you said something that was really interesting, is having agile coaches in place to ensure that transparency continues, because you're really busy. Everybody's very much focused on the outcome, and making sure that things don't get missed as we progress is a key element to all of that. I think it's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that I do notice, and that's, I think, if anybody's listening from engineering, be aware that engineers, they want things to work. If it doesn't work, like literally, if you can't throw a bomb on it and it will not actually break, they will not go to release with it. So you really need to coach on MVP. You really need to coach on getting that visibility, getting that transparency, so they can inspect and adapt. So it's indeed, we've got a lot. We've got still a lot that we can cover with you, I think. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the idea of it's about frame with respect to engineers and perfection. If you frame appropriately, it's about learning and about feedback, as opposed to building a perfect device. Everybody wants to deliver to get learning. If you're framing it around the device, then obviously that's a very different story. Toyota have learned a lot about that from Toyota Production System that we can probably talk about in another podcast. So I just wanted to sort of kick this off. I think it's been a really interesting story. I'm so excited to hear what happens next with Lightyear. I think that, I didn't get a chance to share these quotes, and I really want to. Forbes, why Lightyear could be the most game-changing car company on the planet. Technia, the essence of automotive digital disruption. CNET, wild. Lightyear Zero goes 44 miles just on solar panels. Auto Trader, Lightyear has started with a range of over 600 miles before charges. That's a game changer. I think those ideas that you're delivering on, though, that vision is ultimately driven by the people that are part of Lightyear. And I think the culture and the values, and dare I say agility, is a fundamental part of that. So thank you for spending the time on this Friday evening, sharing the start of this story. You heard it here, listeners. They said they'd come back so we can talk more about some of these things. So they won't let you down, I promise. So thank you, Michelle and Willem, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, listeners, for listening. And obviously, if you're interested in Lightyear, go to the website. There's some really cool stuff there. And if you're into cars like me, you can end up down a internet rabbit hole that will take you days to get out of. But just wanted to share this story. My name's Dave West, host of the Scrum.org community podcast. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully there'll be a second podcast coming on this topic. Thanks, everybody.